All right. Well, thanks for joining us. And Michael, thanks very much for being with us. Michael Sheargold with us today, hot in across over the ditch. And Michael, I've known of you and seen you for, it feels like about 20 years now. And I remember my first ARIC I ever went to, you had somebody standing on the stage literally critiquing what you were doing. And I thought that was a very bold move for somebody that was already on the stage at ARIC and putting your quality control around that. So very, very grateful to have you here today. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Wayne. I'm really excited to be here. And look, as a profession, yes, you're right. I'm now in decade number 3 in terms of coaching. So the exciting thing about that is the first decade, I had someone who actually liked role play. In the second decade, I had an agent who actually likes role play. And in the third decade, I haven't actually found the one agent who likes role play yet. So yeah, excited to be supporting the profession, and you know, my big vision is how do we elevate not only the results of the real estate profession, but also the reputation of the real estate profession.
Fantastic. And hopefully heading in the right direction. You know, the way the legal structure in New Zealand, I think, has helped for us. I'm not too sure in Australia. Is it similar or is it different?
That's a huge question. So, look, I think across Australia and New Zealand, there are more what I call career agents, and career agents are wanting to do a great job. They want the repeat clients. They want to be known for something in their marketplace and have a market position that they truly own. Yep. If we go into the US, and I'm sure you know this will nudge into the US, and so I'll be careful how I frame this. There are definitely career agents over in the US, but there's a lot of, I'm a school teacher and I sell 3 properties per year. This, and it's a supplementary or a supplemental kind of income component to their lifestyle. So I think we've got more agents who are committed to this is their career, this is my chosen profession, and I'm going to be the best version of me and the best I can possibly be for my clients, for my colleagues, and really starting to build that reputation in the market.
So now they're going to be the people listening to us. There's also people outside of real estate. I think it's fascinating, and I enjoy the fact that we have an audience there that picks up on that. So
great.
If we think about the career agents now, and I've heard you express this before, it's about being top of mind, the most familiar agent. So just expand and share that with us, please.
Yeah, look, one of my absolute favourite lines is mind share drives market share. So the greater the mind share, the greater the market share. So if you look at an agent and let's go out to the 100 potential people who are looking for great advice, that are thinking about making a property move, and those people, you know, we could ask those 100. So, you know, who already do you have in your mind around real estate? And the question is, well, do you as an agent come up for this? Now, for those who are listening to this not in real estate, the same thing applies in every single business. What level of mind share? There's a little organisation, a little company called Coca-Cola that still advertises. It's unbelievable. And that's all about mind share. So it's a default position. And look, we did a UK study tour, and there's a great agency over there that did got university students once a year just to go out to the street and say, can you ask just random people on the street if you had something to do with real estate, if you needed a real estate transactional real estate advice, what agency comes to mind? And their goal was, first of all, they were not on the shopping list. Second goal was to get onto the shopping list. Third goal was to be at the top of the shopping list. At the
very top of it.
And that happened over a 5-year time frame. But each year they would do this uni test and have these uni students go out, ask random people in the street, if you were, who would you put in place? And they became the number 1 mindshare agency. Now, interestingly enough, as their mindshare increased, who would have thought? So did their market share.
The market share went up.
You know, back to areas, I'm very, very big on agents getting truly clear on what position do you want to own in the market. So, you know, my number 1 question I ask agents, so tell me about the position you want to own in the marketplace. And it's either super clear, this is what I want to own. homes in this particular suburb at this price point and above.
Gotcha.
Bungalows in this particular area, apartments in this suburb, or waterfronts, or properties with views, or families that are on the move.
Yeah.
So whatever that position is, own it. And then, the next thing I tend to do with them is go, okay, let's have a look at all of your marketing collateral. Let's have a look at your socials. Let's have a look at your Insta. Let's have a look at LinkedIn, and do all of those line up to that position.
Yeah. Yep.
And if they do, well done, good job. If they don't, then hang on, what's the go here?
Then you've missed it.
Yeah.
I remember years ago watching a Harcourts guy in Auckland City, and he did a fantastic job. So good that every property he sold looked the same. And down to the point where if it's a villa and it's grey with white trim and a black roof, that's his. And it just repeated and repeated and repeated. Then he's got the biomass, trailing with him also.
Yeah, and we know that 2 in 10 buyers are pipeline sellers, so all of a sudden you get this amazing kind of roll on. Now, not every market you can have, a villa that's got a great roof and so on. So you want to look at this in your particular marketplace, what will work. But even when I say that, I know that the more that you position yourself as a specialist, whatever that specialty is, the more valuable you will be with clients. And you could have two or three specialties, but if you're sitting with me, I better feel like you specialise in my kind of property.
Yeah, gotcha. When the guys did the UK survey, there's a hierarchy? You want to be number one. You want to get on the list, you want to be number one. Was there a cutoff on the list of how many agents they could remember? Is there a certain point where everybody just is a blur?
Yeah, well, there's a magical kind of capability that exists within humans, and that is we get to 5 and we tend to chunk out. So you ready to do a test?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Let's go.
So think of just name some car brands.
Audi, Mercedes, BMW, Jeep, Ford, Holden.
Okay,
that's
you perform perfectly, Wayne, with it. 3 came out really fast. Did you see that?
Yep.
So the ultimate thing in terms of mind share is to be in the top 3.
Yep.
So you're in that top 3. So as soon as you're in the top 3, immediately it's like it's this or it's this or it's this. That's great. Then you went and the technical version of this is called doing a TDS. You did what's called a transderivational search in your mind.
Okay.
Well done. So we went for a little bit of a sweep, and you went more car brands, please, and then you went through the next lot. I think you had another 4 out then, and then it was like there's another level of search, another TDS.
Yep.
I need another lot, please. And you would have. There's a whole heap that would have come through.
Yep.
But notice the first 3 were really fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Then you had another 4. You got to I think 7. Was it 6 or 7? And then it was another like pause.
Yep.
So the ultimate game plan is how do you be in that top 3?
The top 3. Yep.
Absolutely. And if an agent is in the top 3, hey, if you're thinking about selling your property, who would you go with? And if you're looking for property advice, who would you go with?
And that can be for the suburb, for the area, or for the product, for the style.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's ultimately an agent's choice what they focus on. So typically, if I was coaching a relatively new agent, it would almost always be a geo. It'd be a geographical footprint.
Yeah. Yep.
As an agent develops their business, it might become a style of property that they move into within a geo, or it can be a style or a type of client. So I work with developers in this area.
Gotcha.
I speak fluent Malaysian, so I lean into my Malaysian clients and build that. By the way, I don't, so please don't test me on this one. Or it could be a particular kind of group that naturally exists within the area. So, for example, we're recording this pretty close to Melbourne Cup. So I know a great agent in the Sydney marketplace who worked in Randwick, and he would drive that way and that way around Randwick Racecourse. And then he thought one day, I wonder who looks after the the trainers, the jockeys, all of their needs. So I went and chatted with the CEO, and surprise, surprise, no agent had ever gone to the CEO and said, hey, who looks after your real estate needs? And it was like this incredibly refreshing approach. And suddenly, boom, he's in there as the agent of choice, looking after the trainers and the jockeys and so on. And so much of the land around that is purchased by trainers
by
and
those
jockeys
guys here
and so
being
on.
local. Yeah,
absolutely.
And you made a point. So you'd have a primary position, but you can have two positions.
Absolutely. So, particularly if you had a situation where you go far out, this is the primary market, but I would need 120% of that market share to have a good year. Well, it makes sense to say, well, let's have that as your number one, but then there could be a second and a third marketplace that complement that. The key is complement. Ideally. But if I'm sitting with you and we're at a listing appointment, you better feel from me that I'm a specialist in your kind of property. I know the buyers, I know this property, I know this marketplace, and I can bring that together. So the more someone specialises, interestingly, and I don't say this very often, the less work that an agent needs to do per listing. The less they specialise, the more work you've got to do per listing to go in there better prepared.
Yes. So I've seen that. I've been watching somebody that knows the suburb, if I point out the window, knows this area. Every time they do an appraisal for it, it's a breeze. They know everything in and out. When they do one 5 miles down the road, the time frame blows out because they're having to pick things and second guess everything.
Absolutely. So you can still do it, but you've got to do significantly more prep.
Very interesting.
You can't walk into the way you walk into, say, this marketplace 5 Ks down the road and suddenly recognise, hang on a tick, I don't have the case studies, I don't have the relevance, I can't talk about the sale around the corner.
That's it.
And what was interesting in this situation is this is what we did to focus on this buyer. Or this buyer initially looked at this property, but we knew they had the capability to invest in this. So we showed them this and put it together.
And you're going to get caught out, aren't you? If you hear you're the specialist here and the owner goes, what about the one around the corner? You know that. And you can talk to it. If you're further out, you go, oh, well, let me check that out. And chink in the armour immediately, isn't it?
Okay. So one is doing the research prior to. So if you do have a number of areas that you want to service, then what's the minimum product knowledge that you feel you need? And I quite often say that I think they spelt confidence incorrectly. Confidence should actually start with a K, because when you've got the knowledge in a marketplace, your confidence goes up a notch or two. So, right now we're here in a suburb of Auckland. If I walked out, I would have no confidence. What's the average sale price? Where's the market going? What level of buyer activity is occurring? I don't know any of that. So the superpower that builds agents' confidence is actually knowledge. So, now's the perfect time towards the end of the year into the new year. I recommend agents need to do a reality check review on, well, where am I at right now? If Sheargold turns around and talks about hyper-local knowledge, superior market knowledge, where do I sit with that? Do I sit at out of 100 at 50%, and I go, well, that's enough to get by. So it doesn't cut it anymore. If you want to be, and look, the best agents in the business are doing a disproportionate amount of the volume in the business.
Correct.
So, and the space there, don't think it's too crowded there. You can get to that particular place, but it is going to require effort and contribution and making a difference to yourself so you can actually make a difference to others.
Great tip for a new person in the market is study the market, become the expert. You've got the time. You're not running around managing 5 or 6 listings, so you've actually got the time. Become the actual expert in that area. Study everything.
And look, occasionally I'll have someone say on their business card or on a marketing flyer, it's like the area expert. And I go, well, is that a marketing technique that you're sort of decided to link into, or are you truly the area expert
on it?
So I quite often do tests and say, oh, okay, so how many properties actually are in this suburb? Well, about this many. Okay, and what's been the highest sale price in the last 12 months? And was that beaten 2 years ago, or is it a record sale price? And there are dry blocks and there are also wet blocks here. So how many are wet blocks? How many are dry blocks? And what is the difference of that property today selling 5 years ago and 10 years ago? By the way, what did this total land sell for in 1982 when it was farmland? And how did the streets get to be called those particular names?
Where did the names come from? Yep.
And you sort of have that background. And look, if someone's struggling, well, where do I go to get that background? Just go to the local library and have a chat with the librarian or someone who is assisting, and they'll go, hey, great, here is the book on the area. The other thing I've seen done incredibly well, and we've got a little hotel up in the Blue Mountains, and Shane is doing this for the Blue Mountains, and that is putting up original photographs of the property throughout the years. So in 1958, this is how it looked. So the ability for great agents to go back, find some of those archives and pop those out on social. Who remembers the suburb looking like this? Or who can remember this building? Or who can remember that? So all of a sudden you've got this ability to see and you're building a different kind of credibility. And once again, mind share, market share.
Yeah, and confidence goes up. I did exactly the same. Went to the local library in the Bays, and I thought, where am I going to find a book on this area? And thank God there was some old person that had wrote 3 books. So it was great. Just studied a whole lot. And then suddenly you know the names, you know the area, you know the history. And starting from scratch, that gave me a lot of confidence. So it ran through.
Fantastic.
Great tip for a new person. Now as we expand and they go forward, and this is something I've heard you sort of touch on before, if we think about champions, so we all need to be the champion sitting there. We need to be the expert. We need to be the champion. We need to specialize. And then I think you've brought it down to mindset, learnings, and habits. So just give me some more thoughts on that. Share those thoughts with us.
Yeah, so I think nothing is going to outperform your mindset. So, you can have the best strategy in your toolkit and the best knowledge, but if your mindset sucks, it's going to go nowhere. So, and we've all heard someone say at 10 a.m. in the morning, I'm having a bad day. It's like, dude, it's 10 a.m. You can't have a bad day by 10. So what are you going to do to regroup and pivot? And look, in some marketplaces, a lot of great agents have not earned what they would be expecting to have earned. Coming off the last 2 or 3 years, it was like, how good is this? I'll just get out there. I can order take. If this buyer doesn't want the property, we'll get out of here because someone else will. There's a real refocusing on their deal maker skill set, their matchmaking capability, and there's not many orders to take. A lot of deals to make, but not many orders to take. So I think the first key ingredient is their mindset. So, I talk a lot about growth mindset and a closed mindset. I used to talk about the fixed mindset, but in actual fact, a fixed mindset can be very, very good. So, Nat Cook, a great friend of ours, Olympian, 5 Olympic Games at the top of her field in beach volleyball. So 5 Olympic Games, 20 years at the top of the sport is extraordinary. And for her, she was fixated on winning gold. She was fixated on competing. So it's a good fixation. So if you're fixated on achieving a number or helping a number of clients or fixated on maximising this particular marketplace, that's a healthy thing.
Yeah, gotcha.
A closed mindset, on the other hand, is, well, I'm just waiting for the market to change so I don't need to upgrade my skills. It's like, this is the market. So you've got to be fit for the market that's in front of you. And if it changes, then change again.
We've got to change with it.
Absolutely. And look, Wayne, you've been in the business long enough to have seen a whole range of different markets. So it's a case of, I think for some agents, it's dusting off their negotiation skill set that they didn't need to use for a couple of years, resharpening those tools because they were in the toolkit already, okay? just get them out of the toolkit, sharpen them up. And most of the work I'm doing with experienced agents is actually reminding them.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, just remember that tool. Team, can I just let you know about this? I'll remember this one. They go, oh, yeah, that. Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah.
But I often talk about a builder goes to a building site with more tools in the toolkit. How come? Just in case.
Yep.
So a great agent has more tools in their toolkit than they actually need. Why? Just in case. So therefore, and by the way, if I just need to put a painting on the wall, let me just get the hammer out or the drill out, right? If I need to put an entire deck on the outside of this building, best I get the nail gun. But don't use the nail gun for the painting, and don't use the hammer for the deck.
Yeah.
So I just think it's being able to understand that. So for me, a couple of big things. Number one, absolutely doubling down on what will help me grow my mindset in a particular way. Who am I hanging out with? What food am I eating? Am I exercising? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I giving myself some chillax time, and whatever that happens to be. Some people can meditate while they're swimming. Some people want to go and listen to something to meditate. So what is it that's going to give them that sort of like perspective on life? And then doubling down on what's the skill set? Where is the skills gap for them at the moment? Are there some strategies they need to learn and bring into play? And if they are, then great. And then the other one, I invest a fair bit of time in is really starting to hone some dialogue. Occasionally, I see even great agents getting caught in, a good joke told badly.
Yep.
So the intention behind it was great, but you just delivered it in a way that was so clunky.
Yep.
So, and a lot of the times, it's how do you say more with less.
Yeah.
So something that you actually say, that's got real impact.
Which is putting the picture on the wall. Don't bring everything out of the van.
Yes.
If you're doing the deck, you might need it, but if not, and I think a lot of agents would be missing the point on that. They'd use the whole toolbox and and I've seen it, and kill the vendor. The vendor would just, look, you're doing so well now, I can't put up with you anymore.
Yeah.
You're killing me on this. I don't want to do 4 to 8 weeks in the market with you, no thanks.
100%. One of the best, worst examples of this is an agent said, of course, we will need a key for the property. So the client grabs key and pulls off a spare key and puts it on the table. Now, you and I know that's a listing. The client is actually saying, please, I'm ready to go.
I trust you. Yep.
The agent turns around and says, we haven't done method of sale, we haven't done marketing yet, so key stays there. The right thing to do is, let's go and complete the agreement, and there's a couple other things we need to do as we're going through it.
Yep.
Obvious. Anyway, as the agent's then spending, the 20, 30 minutes on marketing and why this is important and what you can do here and so on, client takes key back from centre of table, puts it back on the key ring.
Yeah.
It's like, dude... you missed it.
Yep.
And that's the ability to read the play.
Yeah.
I do between 2 and 4 listing critiques per month, which is, a great agent sends me
interesting.
A
video themselves.
A video of the listing appointment. It's it's a role play version.
Yes.
It's not camera crew out to a real one. And then I give them, write a report, and then there's a coaching session about how to tweak it and improve it.
Wow.
And occasionally they've got the right ingredients in, but they're baking the cake the wrong way.
Yeah.
So, if you put the eggs in after you take the cake out of the oven, it won't be the same as putting the eggs in early on and mixing it. So... that's a simple metaphor, but super important to get it right. And one of the things I quite often see is if the agent is too focused on what is in their head and not focused on what's happening for the client, it means by default we miss the opportunities.
Yeah.
And I've had great agents, and they are really good agents who do the listing critiques and say, did you not see the play there? Did you not think the next question to ask was so obvious because they've given you this amazing lead? But no, they were so focused on what's the next question. They were in their head rather than in the conversation.
What is that? Is that confidence, or is that they're robotic with what they're doing? Or they just simply haven't got that ability to pay attention to the other person?
Yeah, I think it is listening. I
Yeah.
think it's truly tuning in and focusing less on here's what I need to get through to what do you need to make an informed decision. So if it's what you need to make an informed decision, then it's all about me tuning into you. What are you looking for from me? As we take your property to market, have you had any thoughts about how you'd like to see the property presented? When you actually bought the property, what were those things that really stood out? And they're so easy to do, but I've seen great agents move into the place of saying they're so last year, they're so last century, they're so last decade, but they're the things that allow us to dock in. And they're really easy conversations to have. And it shows that, why'd you list with that agent? They just really understood what we were going through.
Yeah.
They tuned in. They knew what we're talking about. So
it's a real difference in your words there, and I feel guilty also of saying, here's what I suggest, here's what I think, here's where we're at, because we've got the confidence running there, as opposed to your words where, have you had thoughts about this? What's your thoughts around, what would you consider? So you're actually drawing it out of them. That's a great point. That's a great turnaround as we go, isn't it?
Absolutely. And look, for me, and anyone who's done any coaching with me would know, the listing appointment starts on the phone. So it doesn't start when you walk in. It's you make that phone call a really important component, and then obviously we get to the listing appointment. We reconfirm what we've covered on the phone, and then it's like, well, okay, what are the really important things for us to work through today, so you're in a great position to make an informed decision. And my number one goal is to help you achieve your property goals. And what is it that's going to help you the most? So it becomes an advisor. And sharing the advice that makes the biggest difference.
Which is more value. You pay more for an advisor than anybody else.
Yep.
And I'll just jump out, Michael. I'll just jump out and make a point there. So, if you're familiar with Michael, that's great. If you're not, then if you're a business owner, the very best training I've ever had has been your training, and to the point where, and I remember doing this up on the Gold Coast. I was so embarrassed with the way I actually ran my business after doing one day with you that I phoned my team and apologized, and then came back for day two. It was like, holy hell, Michael, I've done everything wrong, And the good thing is they knew I had. So I think the apologies sort of cleaned that up. So if you're a business owner, this is absolutely where you should be. And equally for salespeople, and we've been in the room where it's been a dozen salespeople, and been in the room where you've had hundreds, and at Eric where you've had thousands in front of you. So it's all of those skills and all of those training come through. This is most valuable. If I now strip that back, because you perform at the highest level, so how do you look after yourself with mindset, learning, and your habits?
Yeah, great question. So I think the first thing for me is I don't see learning as an interruption to my work. I see it as the fuel to be more effective in my work. So a lot of agents and leaders for that matter, a 2-day conference on the Gold Coast, business of real estate, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I'll have to, park this in my life. I'll have to get on a plane. I'll have to do this. I'll have to do this. Correct. But if you see it's not about the business of real estate, it's whatever it is. If that is the fuel for you to be even more effective, then you'll see that in place. We do a Monday morning video. It's pretty simple, and it's not about us sending the video out. It's about consuming it and then applying it. But I think a lot of real estate professionals have get caught in training that's interrupting what I'm doing because they're so focused on the deal, the call, what am I going to do today? But if you actually shift this and you shift it into this mode of, well, what's the bigger picture for you? And we know compounding interest from a financial point of view, the impact that has. It's compounding learning. So you compound your learning again and again and again, guaranteed it makes a massive difference.
Far better fuel coming in.
Yeah.
So your fuel is the UK, the US. Do you do both?
Yes and yes. So I do 30 days of learning per year. So 1 month of my life I dedicate to improving. So it's no big deal for me to do a course or invest a day or a half day or jump on and learn this.
Yep.
So, who's best in the world? Who can I sign up to? Who can I learn from that stress tests my thinking? And look, the great gift I've got is the amazing clients I work with. They give me these incredible challenges and incredible opportunities to help them grow and develop. And through that process, there's so much learning on the other side of it.
Yeah.
So I think a fundamental DNA, and we probably don't have time to get into what's your why, but knowing why you do it. So I'm truly passionate about helping people unlock their true potential, and I truly believe most people have more in their tank than what they're currently realizing. So if you've got more in the tank you're currently realizing, can you do that by yourself? And we both know that we can go to the gym by ourselves and we'll get a certain outcome. You and I go to gym at the same time. We say, let's actually work out together. It will improve our outcome. We add a personal trainer into the mix. It will go to another level. So it's not a case, and when I started coaching the profession, I've got a coach. I remember, John McGrath saying, Michael coaches me, and it was like, is there something wrong? Because it was almost coaching was like, you've got to have something wrong to have a coach. Wrong strategy. You've got to be committed to something great to have a coach. You've got to want something great. So coaching, I believe, is a superpower that starts to unlock a new level of performance. And, the fastest runner in the world has a coach. There's a little clue there. So it's not a case of...
the heavyweight champion of the world has a coach?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
So... one is finding someone that you can relate to. Two, making sure that they can fit the where your budget is at right now.
And then great point.
And then starting to advance. So I think what really excites me is seeing the ability to make a difference. And then on the personal side, training, food, sleep, chillax time.
Discipline around those elements.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even necessarily call it discipline. I'd call it just getting to the stage of them being habits. So I think you need discipline to create a habit, but once you've got a habit, you don't need that much discipline.
It should stay in there, shouldn't it? Yeah. And I love it. See, I always talk about food as fuel. I just look at it saying, and I know the only place I've ever been on conference where there's healthy food to eat is yours.
Thank you.
And then you go to the other ones and it's a carb overload, and you just like you're slaughtered, and you think, if I'm here 3 days, this is really going to impact my body.
I agree.
So I think fuel, and I love the way you put learning in as being the fuel, also putting it in. So I run with that.
Awesome.
Here's one for you, and this might get you in trouble on either side of the ditch, but we won't talk sport. Now, this is only a very narrow observation, Aussie versus Kiwis,
Oh, this is going to be great, isn't it? Yeah. This is a setup.
This is safe. This is real safe. Quite often I hear, I get the impression that in Australia we'll sell a higher volume than the New Zealand agent will, the salesperson, but the sales prices are lower, and then vice versa. In New Zealand we'll talk about a lower amount of transactions, but a higher sale price. Now, I'm guessing that's pretty broad if I do it that way, but do you see that? And here's where I'm going to go with it. How do you get both? How do you get a sweet spot as far as your sale price or your GCI goes? And how do you get that volume coming through at a greater volume than the next person in your market?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is that's a big generalisation about Australia and New Zealand, because I can show you volume agents in New Zealand and I can show you specialist low volume agents in Australia. I do prefer to go with a number of transactions than I do a GCI. I mean, GCI will wash itself around it. The other thing is fees are typically higher in the New Zealand marketplace than they are in Australia. So you've got, if the same average sale price is being achieved in both markets, the Aussie agent probably needs to do another 5 transactions to come in a net position, just based on the comms.
Yep.
So the thing that I would say is that changes the most is shifting away from a GCI goal and moving to a number of transactions. So
let's go with that, because we all talk GCI. We measure GCI. We give you how you're tracking. We reward it, but we're not talking. We don't talk number of transactions.
Correct. But in actual fact, how many appraisals are you doing is a number.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
How many are sitting in your pipeline is a number.
Yep.
You could also do what dollars are sitting in the pipeline. But ultimately, for most agents, they need to just get clear on what are their momentum indicators. And I talk a lot about momentum being an agent's best friend and a business's best friend. So if you've got and typically, you only need maybe 3 momentum indicators to say, here are my 3 indicators.
Yeah.
If they're in play, the rest of it's going to take care of itself. But if you can get, and those who are operating in a super team, what I really love, if you can move into a number of transactions, I've seen agents who are focused on GCI and say, second week of the month, I've achieved my GCI goal. And I go into sort of like a cruise control as opposed to how many transactions can we do? It's only an additional 1. And I was chatting with the team earlier today. Their business, given the volume of agents that they have, 5 additional transactions for each agent, which is 1 every second month, the impact that will have on that business, and by the way, on the agents and on their market perception and market momentum is huge. So that's only, it's less than one additional every 2 months. And my belief is if you as an agent cannot find an additional listing, every couple of months, something's radically wrong. But, this is time allocation. You and I go to the time bank, and so do you, and you get 168 hours every single day from the time bank, every single week, I should say, from the time bank. Someone who's producing twice the results is doing different things in those hours.
Yep.
And my favourite saying around time is, it's not how many hours you put in, it's what you are putting into those hours. So it's becoming legendary around recognising that there is a time cost. So if you can invest your time in the most appropriate way, you'll produce a better result. I think the sweet spot is getting to a place of saying, okay, what is a market volume? And I'm totally cool that someone says, well, I want to write X amount of dollars. But just the next thing is, given the average sale price, given the average fee, what is the number of sales? And in most markets now, if I want to sell 50, I need to list 60 or 70. So therefore, now I start stacking that. To list 60 or 70, how many appraisals do I need to do in order to achieve it? So now we've got a success indicator for this week. That providing we're doing this and we're putting this into pipeline this week, that's going to take care of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've got the quality you talked about earlier.
Absolutely.
So you're doing the right things, saying the right things. I've still got on my head, filming that and sending it through to you. I challenge my guys, just film yourself and look at it, You'll be horrified, but I'm telling you now, it's the real thing. It's what the vendor's staring at. And if they can share that with you, that's magic. Okay, so we now divide it back and we go back into deals, sales, transactions, and roll that back, which makes sense because you then roll back to appraisals, you roll back to phone calls, you roll back to farms and doors, etc. as it comes through.
And Wayne, the other important point there is if we look at, say, the last 10 or 15 years, the average sale price has nudged up, across Australia and New Zealand. So therefore, if I was focused on writing a figure, well, I can do less and still write that figure. So even if I had a number and focus on a number per year, and I didn't move the number year to year, if I just had that, I would see, in most marketplaces, a 30 or 40 or 50% lift in my earning potential just because I was focused on doing that number.
Okay, so this is your experience as a coach across wide teams, great clients, and you go, actually pull it back into a number and we'll increase your numbers.
Correct.
Yep, okay, brilliant. Look at that. How good's that? All right, here we go. We're flying into the tail end of the calendar year.
Yes.
And we're already ramping up. You know, the New Zealand market has found some life again, which is great. And listings, auctions, everything is flying. That's going to take us through till Christmas. Yeah. What's your best tips, your suggestions? How do we get the flying start for the new year, for 2024? Yes. How do we make sure that we don't come into this cold? What are you suggesting?
So my video this week was on exactly this, and that is strong finish, brilliant start. So how do you finish strong? And I'm recommending to leaders, have your Christmas parties later this year, and certainly from a New Zealand market point of view, because you guys had the election and all those sorts of things, you didn't have your typical spring.
True.
So, buyers were holding off, interest rates doing what they did, really created that pause, then drop an election in the middle of spring. And now we're seeing that late run and, as you said, life back into the marketplace. So you want to make sure that the team have got great energy between now and the end of the year. That might be creating a few games, some short-term incentives, lighten up the office a little bit, because everyone's going, Christmas, how long before it's there kind of thing. So make sure that's in play. The second thing I'd recommend is look at what you want your startup plan to look like. So what's your startup plan? Week one, I'm back, day one, what happens? So how many listings am I launching? What have I already signed up? What am I ready to go? Let me have 3 meetings the afternoon of day one when I'm back, because then I arrive back and I'm in go mode, as opposed to ride back, scratch head, what am I going to do? Where do I go to from here? So strong finish, what does that look like? What do you want to achieve then? And what's that launch that you have? And individually, great to do. If you're a leader, this is brilliant to do. And I'm big on display management. So display management is what's on display, what's up on the wall. And that might be a certain incentive, or everyone who lists something this side of the year for next year gets to pull an envelope off the Christmas tree. And the envelope can have everything from you get to wash my car, maybe a car wash voucher, to a dinner for 2, to a coffee next door, to some movie tickets and so on. So nothing big, but something that just activates a little bit more fun in the process. And that's the kind of thing as leaders that if you're not focused on that, I think it's a super important thing. How do you either theme things or move things into a little bit more of a game to play? And, a lot of people turn around and say, and leaders have actually said to me, but Michael, they're paid to do that. They earn really good money for that. Like, what's the deal? Well, guess what? We're just big kids. So when we're playing a game, then all of a sudden things are heading in the right direction.
It's more fun.
It's more fun.
Brilliant. Love it. So more fun. Put something on the Christmas tree. We put a real one in the office. I love the smell of the real Christmas tree. Somebody complains about it. I'll go, God, like if you can complain about the smell of a Christmas tree, like, wow, that's not good. So just love it. So put something on that, and also hit the ground running with your plan, because a lot of people will arrive back a little bit shabby. If our summer is great, we're all going to be wanting to be at the beach, but if we arrive back with the plan ready to go, you're into it. So there we go. I hope everybody enjoyed that, and everybody got it, whichever colour real estate office you're in, or company or franchise. That's brilliant. Michael, thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
From day one, the first time I ever saw you, every single coaching, every training, every time you've shared information with me, it's been fantastic, and it's also challenged me, and it's embarrassed me that I didn't sit there with that knowledge, and I've loved lapping it up. So, mate, you're an absolute champion, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Cheers.
Yeah. And if I can help anyone on their journey, I'd love to. It's what we do.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you, ciao.